Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to another episode of the Lives of the Prophets. And today we're going to speak about one of the most strongest, the most powerful humans, the most powerful kings, the most powerful prophets is Prophet Sulayman alayhi salam. Prophet Sulayman not only was a prophet, but he was also a king. So King Sulayman or King Solomon was, subhanAllah, a son of another prophet and King Dawood, subhanAllah. So Sulayman was from the best of lineages, subhanAllah. He's from the lineage of Ibrahim down through to Isaac and Yaqub, the Bani Israel, and then you have Dawood and Sulayman. And so, subhanAllah, he's from a lineage of prophets, and he's learning firsthand wisdom and knowledge from his father Dawood. And subhanAllah, it's mentioned in the Quran that both Dawood and Sulayman were granted with wisdom, subhanAllah. So subhanAllah, Dawood was given other miracles, like he was shown how to use iron, for weapons, so he had a strong army. He was also given the ability to speak to birds and animals and know the language of animals. And this is also something that Sulayman inherited. So Sulayman also inherited not only the kingdom, but he inherited the miracle of understanding the language of the animals. It is said that Sulayman's army was very strong and powerful. He also had animals in the army. He had jinn. He was the only one who's been given the ability to control the jinn. The jinn are a creature which is a spiritual creature, similar to human beings. They have the ability to choose to do right and wrong and believe or not believe, but we can't see them. But Sulayman had the power to control them. He had the power to control the weather and the winds, subhanAllah. He was really a truly powerful prophet. And this came from a dua that he made. The Prophet ﷺ told us that Sulayman made a dua that he would be given wisdom. And the Prophet ﷺ affirmed that Allah granted him this, and that he asked Allah that he would be given a kingdom that no one has had or will have like it. And surely Sulayman was given one of the most powerful, strongest kingdoms and empires. And the final dua that he mentioned that he wanted that if somebody makes wudu and goes to his masjid or goes to his temple, Al-Aqsa, that they will be forgiven. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Inshallah, we hope that this dua is also accepted. So subhanAllah, Sulayman had great power, great knowledge, great wisdom, and he was enforced with miracles. One of the famous incidents that happened, he was walking with his army, and he could see a colony of ants, and the ants were speaking, and subhanAllah, they were saying, oh, surely we're going to be destroyed by the army of Sulayman. You got a huge army walking past, they're just going to stand on the colony of ants. And Sulayman laughed, and he spoke to the ants and told them, look, don't worry, we won't harm you. And so this is one of the miracles that Sulayman was granted. Another miracle is one of his birds, a hoopy bird, actually came back after receiving a message. Sulayman received a message from the hoopy bird that there was a kingdom of the Queen of Sheba down in Yemen, modern day Yemen, where she had a great empire, but her people were not believing in God. They were worshipping the sun, subhanAllah. So Sulayman decided to give her dawah. He wrote a letter. He sent a letter to her, inviting her to Islam, saying Bismillah, in the name of Allah, and inviting her to the correct religion. So the Queen of Sheba was considering it. She's thinking, back then we're living in an age of empires, where empires, they conquer each other, and she's thinking, is this great king going to conquer me? Do I have a chance of defending? So she tried to remain in good terms with Sulayman by sending some gifts. She sent many extravagant gifts to Sulayman to try to keep him to try to be in his good books. And Sulayman said, I don't need your gifts, subhanAllah. He's been granted everything you need. He has a strong empire, everything you can imagine. So he sent the gifts back. And then she decided to come. She traveled all the way from Yemen to Palestine. And as she was traveling, Sulayman came up with this idea of a miracle. Let's bring her throne from Yemen to Palestine. So when she arrives, her throne is waiting. And so Sulayman said, who will bring the throne? And one of the jinn, because the jinn are very strong, and one of the powers of the jinn is that they can travel very fast. And this jinn traveled to Yemen and back with literally in the blinking of an eye, and brought this huge throne back into the presence of Sulayman. Eventually, when the Queen of Sheba entered Palestine, she couldn't recognize her throne. She could never imagine that her throne would be there, and they disguised the throne slightly, to make it a bit of a test for her. Eventually, she realized that this throne was her throne, and she became a Muslim. She accepted Islam, subhanAllah. She started to worship the correct religion, and ultimately her empire came under the power of Sulayman and his empire. What's interesting is, even from the time of Sulayman, we had Muslims. Of course, they were Bani Israel, but they were true Muslims in and around Arabia at that time. The followers of Bathsheba, many of the Yahud or the Bani Israel went from Palestine to Yemen to teach the people the correct religion. And there would have been pockets of Bani Israel in and around Arabia, even from the time of Sulayman, so early on, and even after the time of Isa and before Isa. There's many times and instances in history when the Bani Israel would have flocked to Arabia, waiting the coming of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who is mentioned in the original Torah that was revealed to Musa. So subhanAllah, Sulayman had this great kingdom, this great empire, and he ordered the jinn to help him build Bayt al-Maqdis, which is Al-Aqsa Mosque. And of course, this became the first Qibla of the Muslims. For many years, the Muslims were facing Al-Aqsa Mosque, the furthest mosque, in their Salah. But of course, later on, it was changed, and the Qibla was changed to Mecca. But of course, the third holy mosque in Islam is still Al-Aqsa Mosque, and this is originally built by Sulayman. And of course, we're not talking about today's Al-Aqsa Mosque with the Dome of the Rock and Masjid Qibli. We're talking about the land. That is the original land where Al-Aqsa Mosque or Bayt al-Maqdis was built. And subhanAllah, this is one of the miracles and the signs of Sulayman, subhanAllah. So Sulayman was a great prophet, and one of the biggest lessons what we can learn from Sulayman is, when you are powerful, when you are rich, when you have authority, you should remain believing and submission to Allah. You shouldn't oppress people. You shouldn't hold back your wealth. You should give your wealth in the cause of Allah, and you should never forget Allah. You should remember and remain in the remembrance of Allah, like Sulayman and his father Dawood. They were true prophets of Allah who judged justly, and they always remembered their Lord, subhanAllah. This is one of the great prophets and the signs of Islam. Make sure you join us next time, and we'll learn about more of the prophets of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك